All right, is everybody ready?
Yeah.
I'm going to call the February 28th City Council Workshop. It's 5:30 p.m. And hope everybody's doing good. Good? Yeah, all right. First up on the agenda is Deschutes County Sheriff Office Annual Review. Lieutenant Davis, you have somebody with you.
I do. I have Deputy Aaron Myers and I thought we'd just start off with Aaron giving him a chance just to kind of introduce himself to the council and staff. Just talk about kind of his background and where he comes from.
Awesome, welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm Darren Myers. I've been.
Just
No, just.
speak into it a little bit.
There we go.
Yeah, thank you.
I've been with the sheriff's office for 16 years and I started here for the City of Sisters in February. Very excited to be here. Prior to coming to City of Sisters, I did search and rescue, was part of special services. And then prior to that, I did patrol. And then before that, I was in corrections, working in the jail. I've been here in Deschutes County since I was 2 months old. So really love Deschutes County and this area. Love to recreate, hiking, backpacking, camping, all that stuff. Much more summer activities though than winter activities. So,
Awesome.
So what was your favorite search and rescue while you were doing that? Do you have any infamous stories or?
A lot of them are very, some of them could be kind of interesting, yes, but it was a good group of people. There was over 100 volunteers that went out, so we were more the coordinator. So it was my job to make sure that I contacted the right group of people to go out and do the rescue. So we have, mountains, the rivers, snowmobiles, ATVs, motorcycles. So my job was just coordination, and then the volunteers were the ones that went out and did most of the work. So a really good group of people that are volunteering for Deschutes County and helping out. You don't want me to go and try to do a technical rope rescue. It was a miracle I tied my shoes.
Good to know, good.
Yeah. But
You can handle a gun though.
that is, and I can make sure I call out the right people for the right situation that could go and help people in need here in Deschutes County.
I was
Welcome.
thinking a lot of those are very technical of work. And
Oh, yes, yes. And then the
work and everything else.
with water,
Yeah.
yeah, some very technical skills that I do not have, but there's people here that do and are willing to volunteer their time for that, so.
And just so you know, Deputy Myers, that I drive a red Bronco and it looks like it's going faster than it really is.
Yes.
Just so you know.
And what was that license plate?
Yeah.
It's
I'll-
out
I'll
front.
send
You
I'll
can't
send
miss
you a
it.
picture.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Everybody knows, I think, so.
Every time he goes by, I put him in reverse and drive backwards real fast, so makes it look like he's going faster.
Well, thank you.
Thank
Welcome,
you very much.
welcome to Sisters.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep, thanks. Okay. So we have not done an annual report like this before, and I think basically council wanted a little bit more data. And so we actually had to, as I was talking with Councilor Cobb, find out the people who could pull some of that data for us that we don't normally get. And so we'll see in the PowerPoint that we were able to pull our part 1 and part 2 FBI crime data from from our statistics that we report monthly to the FBI. You can go ahead. So I learned quite a bit actually on what the FBI reporting was, because I had made an assumption that when I heard part 1 and part 2, I was assuming, oh, well, part 1 must be person crimes and part 2 must be property crimes. Well, it's a mix, as you see in the definitions included later in the packet. There's murder and then there's burglaries, and it's a mishmash of things. But at the end of the day, we still report all this data monthly to the FBI, and we'll get into that. The first kind of comparison, I wanted to just kind of go over the case reports within the city from 2022, and then we'll look at 2023. you know, and we, later on, when we see, some of the graphs and stuff, you'll get to see the comparisons, which I'm assuming, most of you have already seen. We were down a little bit, just in summary, a little bit on the self-initiated activity when you compare 22 to 23. And we can just kind of jump to 23, just showing those categories on the case reports for 2023. So we were down a deputy, obviously, from August until February. So the latter half of 23, some of our self-initiated activity was down, such as traffic stops and citations and warnings, and a little bit on arrests. But as far as the case reports for 2023, you know, we were up roughly 14 thefts, only up 1 burglary report. DUIs, we had an increase of 7. No changes in assaults. Vandalism cases, we were up 5, and then our sex crime calls, we had no change. So I think, you know, overall, as we kind of look at the activity and things that are going on in the city, is that we live in a very safe community. We do have crimes that occur. Most of those, we want to talk about clearance rates at some point. I think that was part of it. I think Jordan brought up. But we do solve a lot of crimes that occur here, and we have a lot of the same crimes that Bend or Redmond or any other city has. We just have them in lower frequency. And so, but when you look at overall, like on 2023 reports, you know, 8 assaults, which is less than 1 a month, obviously, is not much. And most of those, I can say anecdotally, the suspect is known to the victim. Most of the time, you know, we don't generally have random assaults where the assailant is unknown to the victim. Most of those are people that know each other, whether it's some kind of domestic case, maybe a bar fight, that type of thing, where people know each other for the most part. So as far as our random criminal acts, we have very few of those on the person crime side. More of the thefts are obviously thefts and vandalism is where we have people that are suspect, maybe unknown to the victims. So just jump ahead to slide 7. And that's just showing kind of the overall activity from 2022. And then on slide 8, we look at 2023, and, you know, we're up roughly 1,000 total incidents from year over year. And I equate a lot of that to deputies being more proactive about documenting their activity, such as our community policing contacts and security checks and things. The deputies going out, checking businesses, going to the schools, and mostly on night shifts. And then also we're documenting more when we're spending time in the school zones. So usually every time, you know, I personally am sitting in a school zone, I create a call that, hey, I'm working traffic enforcement in that area. So some of our documentation on our self-initiated stuff has been going up just because we're keeping better records than we did before. And then going to slide 9, which Councilor Cobb said that she liked.
I like that one the
Okay.
best.
So then you kind of see the more direct comparisons of the case reports within the city. And obviously we're up overall in 23 compared to 22. You know, a little bit more thefts and more DUI calls. We had quite a few more restraining order violations. Just also kind of some information on that. We've had some cases that have been generated at our station because we have the blue line safety zone located there, where we have parental drop off and pickup, and we've had some restraining order violations that have occurred there. Just unfortunately, that's just kind of part of the process, people violating the rules of the drop off scenario. So our office has kind of been a focal point for some of those things. So you see a little bit of an uptick there. And then basically just going to slide 11, I kind of already covered a little bit of this. You know, we handled 31 more cases and investigations overall in 23, 400 more self-initiated incidents in 23 than in 22. Thefts and vandalism, as you can expect, are most popular or most common crimes, and then person crimes are the least common. Then as we go on, the other part of your packet just has more of the data that was broke down from the part one and part two crime reporting, as well as what the definitions, of what is a part one and part two crime. And then I also threw in, just for fun, our overall statistics from, 2021 and 2020. And 2020 was obviously the first year of the contract, and we kind of started it with limited staff. We didn't really have everybody in place, but just overall comparing 2020 to 2023, you know, we're documenting 3,600 more incidents, basically almost doubling.
Of course, that 2020 was shutdown year.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, you gotta go to 2019 to do any comparables.
But I think overall, at least what I'm seeing is that our proactive, self-initiated activity is much more than it previously was. Now that we have Deputy Myers on and kind of filling out that, the 3 deputies and then myself, having everyone fully staffed. You know, I've already seen, and I think you'll see in February statistics that our self-initiated numbers will even go higher. So more traffic stops, more citations, that type of thing. So any questions?
Okay, has anybody got any questions?
Sure. Okay, do you feel that with the staff level you have now, that your response times are where you would like them to be?
I would say when we're working, yes. When we have a city deputy on, for the most part, our response time is really good. I don't have direct stats on what those are. And I think, you know, what we see is that your response times are gonna be slower when the city deputies are not necessarily working. When our West deputy could, you know, is in the West County, they could be out toward Black Butte Ranch on a crash, and then there may be a call here in the city that they may be a little delayed in getting there. So that does happen on occasion, but I feel very confident when our team is working in the city that your response times are, you know, we get it anecdotally speaking, a lot of people saying, man, we just called and
Yes.
and so, but a lot of times we're literally right around the corner sometimes on calls. So yeah, I feel good about it.
Okay, other than the Highway 2126 drive-through, traffic, do you have a sense that the fentanyl crisis has hit Sisters?
Well, I would say that we know it's here, and we have had some incidents where we've, you know, given naloxone or Narcan to people. That I haven't seen that like in the last year. We know obviously Highway 20 is a corridor coming from the valley, and we know our code team has stopped people here in town or passing through town that were trafficking in fentanyl. So that's well documented. So we know it's happening. But as far as, you know, I would look at like overdose calls, and I can't think of any that we've had in the last year here in Sisters. But keep in mind, a lot of those are going unreported now too. People have access to naloxone directly. And so a lot of those usages they're occurring, and we're not being made aware of it. So people are overdosing, they're using Narcan or naloxone, and then they don't call.
Yes.
Unless, of course, that doesn't work. And what we're seeing with fentanyl is that one dose of, like we carry on our vests and we have in our cars, usually one dose is not enough now. It's taking 2 or 3 doses because of fentanyl, because initially, you know, Narcan was used for opiate or heroin type overdoses. And so it was obviously regular heroin. So it would counteract that in pretty short order. But fentanyl is so much higher power. What will happen is they'll have to administer multiple doses. So like we may administer a couple doses, and then when medics get there, they may do it. And then there's even an option of doing it through like an IV drip. And that's what we've seen too, where people who have overdosed, they actually need a continual IV drip of Narcan, even at the hospital, for, you know, a period of time to keep them from overdosing, you know.
How do you feel about Narcan being massively made available in all public spaces, and everybody should know how to use it, just like CPR? Do you see that as we just have to get over the fact that people are just dying around us? I mean, is
I
this
think
really our life now?
it's like our new normal. And I guess the one thing I would think of is that, you know, that's someone's relative, parent, father, son, daughter, you know, and they're an addict, right? And so, or somebody could even be accidentally exposed, you know, that's why we really carry them on our vest, is in case one of us accidentally get exposed, we can immediately administer it. But what I would say is that, you know, that gives that person another chance at life, right? And it gives them an opportunity to someday seek treatment and get over their addiction. And so, you know, it's another chance at life. I know, again, anecdotally, people who have been have overdosed multiple times that have been saved by Narcan. I heard of a story here a while back where person had passed out. They had been given Narcan. They woke up and the person asked them, "Do you know what happened?" He goes, "Oh yeah, I can taste it. I know you Narcan me," because apparently there's an aftertaste after they've been administered. And so they had become so familiar with that taste that they knew they had been Narcan. And so, yeah, it's very
Were
prevalent.
they glad to be brought back?
I would assume so, yeah. I mean, I mean, it has
boy, we can
saved,
do this
it has
again.
saved, I'm
No.
sure,
Okay.
hundreds, if not thousands of lives in Deschutes County.
Oh,
But we did just go through a period of time where, I believe it was last month, there were 4 overdose deaths, I think, in the span of a week or two. And so we know it's here and, you know, we know it's in Sisters, but we haven't seen it necessarily
Okay.
on the overdose side of things.
Last question. Do any of the statistics come per capita? Like, do we know per capita is Sisters rate
Right.
different than the county or different than the state or just the national average, that kind of thing?
We didn't do a comparison on that, but I think, as Council
Okay.
Cobb mentioned too, I mean, I think there's some room for more of those comparisons. It probably just is limiting necessarily our ability, but we have the ability to learn, right?
Mhm.
And find out how we can plug in some of those numbers and compare them. I just,
Well, we
admit
get
I'm
so
not
many
that-
crime statistics nationally and
Yeah.
in Oregon and whatever, and we don't really have any sense of, well, is that compared to Deschutes County? Is that high? Is that low? Is that, we always assume we're so safe here, but,
Yeah, and,
Okay.
and I think the numbers
you.
bear that we are, but
Mhm.
I mean, something we can do in the future, is some of that comparison.
And you've heard me talk about this before. I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into crime reporting. Some of it depends on the agency and how they report the crimes. It depends on activity from that department. And then equally important is the perception of crime too, and
There you
how
go.
people feel about safety. And so that's why we do, community surveys about public safety. We do that periodically. I think we've talked about perhaps doing that maybe like in a year as we look at contract renewal and service levels and staffing. But there's a debate about, are crime statistics useful, given that there's a lot of bias that goes into reporting those statistics. But at the very least, we have a benchmark and a baseline now and to kind of look at that. And typically what you do is you do it per capita. So you take the actual, numbers of part 1 or part 2 or, more heinous crimes, and then you look at it per capita, and then you can compare it to other communities. And yeah, I mean, 8 assaults, and I mean, it's a pretty safe community. I think most people, yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
3 of them were me, so.
And just a quick comment, about the, antidote, as an uncle who has a niece who's alive today because of it, who was a heroin user back in the days before fentanyl, and started off with OxyContin and then moved up when the OxyContin went away. Who now is in her late 40s and married and living as much of a life as a 20-year-long drug addict can live. It does work, and people do sometimes turn themselves around. Not always, but in my personal experience, at least, there's still a member of my family here.
And there are success stories out there,
Mhm.
there are people that do have that wake up moment. They realize they're at the bottom of the barrel and they need to pull themselves out and ask for help. So, we do partner with Ideal Options, which is a service where people can go and seek treatment for drug addiction, and we can actually get them plugged in either same day or the next day into a counselor. And that is medication prescribed. There's obviously treatment that can be administered directly. That's in
So
bed.
overdosing is not considered committing suicide? Or is-
No, they're usually ruled an accidental death because they're, you know, they're trying to get high.
Okay.
mean,
Where
you
they
know-
don't even know they're trying to get.
Yeah,
this,
yeah,
gives
and
them something.
The scary thing with fentanyl is any drug is it's not made, to a standard that Tylenol was made, right?
Yeah, the
um,
FDA hasn't approved it, no.
It's made in a lab where there's
That's why
no,
we're not seeing ads
you
on
know,
TV.
made in other places where there are no controls, and I think it's like, this is a little bit of this and a little bit of this, and that's what happens is that people may get used to a certain dosage, and they're taking that and taking that, and all of a sudden, if the drug comes from a different source, and they think they're taking the same amount, but it could have been a much different batch. And that's where you have overdoses a lot of the times is people, hey, I was just taking what I normally take, but unfortunately, this same pill had 10 times more in it than the other one did. And so that's where you have people that,
Well, and I think when you look at some of the arrests that have happened in the state where they're getting pills, and when you look at them, they're marked and look just like something that is either prescription, a legal prescription, or even over the counter. So they've gotten very clever at making it difficult to identify from a law perspective or even a parent perspective of what's in your kid's pocket.
yeah, most of the fentanyl comes as counterfeit Oxycontin
Yeah.
pills. So that they talk about blues. So a lot of the blue pills, which you'll see in a lot of our press release, be
Bags of-
Ziploc bags full of thousands of pills, and they're branded as like a counterfeit Oxycontin. So,
And now they have them in colors that they look like they're M&Ms.
right, rainbow colors and things, all kinds of.
I would like to suggest to council, I sent an email, you got it late today, sorry.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
So it's about this very topic relative to having a crime rate for sisters. Because I went on the line, and if you type in what's the crime rate for sisters, you'll go to a website. I mean, there's a bunch of them, but one of them were 26% crime rate in sisters. Where does that come from? Exactly. So I think it's important for us to be able to, as a city, to say, what is our crime rate? And we documented it and we figured it out.
And what does that crime rate mean?
Yeah, and be
Yeah.
able to say that too. And so, the work that the sheriff has done, Lieutenant here and his people is really good base for that. And, what needs to be figured out by council with the help of the Deschutes County Sheriff's Office is, okay, which crimes do we want to identify as the high crimes that we want to track to decide our rate? And they have suggestions for that. There was, you have the part 1, part 2, there's an A-B suggestion, but you can have like 5 or 6, or, you just narrow it down to the crimes that people are really afraid of, or that financially are really bad for them, either of those two. And I think it would be nice if we did that. And I know we've got a really busy schedule for this next year. So maybe, we agree to some workshop sometime when things kind of slow down in the winter or something. I would like to suggest
You
that.
you slow down?
I'm all for slowing down.
I am too.
So if council would, agree with that at some future time, I think that would be something to shoot for that's worthy. I don't know if anybody else agrees. Does anyone else agree?
Let me read your email and kind of digest a little bit.
That's what I was thinking.
I
too.
think that, every year the stats get better and we appreciate that. Obviously, everybody's growing into the relationship. So, I like what you're doing and I like that you're, keeping a pulse on what everybody kind of wants and, the report gets bigger every time. So I can't argue with that. So, but if we might have some discussions amongst ourselves as a city and, if there's something we want to highlight or maybe we'll bring it back to you and say, hey, find out. Cause I know it's not you, it's going to be somebody back at the, one of those techie guys, maybe like
How do you know
It-
he's not a tech?
the DCSO, Joe doing the
Yeah.
spreadsheets. and stuff. So,
Yeah.
yeah, we don't have anything for you now, but we're gonna probably have some discussions over the year and,
One last thing,
Yeah.
we are planning another, community academy in May. We had one last January, and so, I think it's the 15th and 16th, but I'll let you know. of May.
Budget committee.
Yeah, so we're gonna do that again at the fire hall, 2 nights, and it'll be kind of a general, we'll have a sisters section for just, sisters folk, and then a general overall view of the sheriff's office like we did before, highlighting some of our other divisions and corrections and patrol and SWAT and detectives and all that. And
The dog.
yeah, and canine. And so, I learned a lot of things just watching that, especially from our detectives and the new technology that is being employed in criminal investigations that I was there 3 years ago and we weren't even doing what we're doing now. So it's pretty cool to see some of that technology.
And National Night Out, I assume, is probably on the calendar again.
National Night Out,
That's a good one.
How about threading?
July. Yeah, I'll get you the dates on that, but
Yeah, I
it's
missed
like the
I
third
could-
week of July.
We're keeping you busy.
11 o'clock and it's
Busy.
already all full.
The crime stats will go down because we're gonna be running you in circles.
All right. Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Keep getting those speeders. Appreciate that.
As long as it's not red Jeeps.
Yeah.
Broncos.
All right. Next up is the Park System Development Charge Update. I think Paul's gonna head that up. Okay. Scott, you're on the line.
Okay, yeah, good evening. I can't seem to get my video going, so lucky for you. You're just hearing my voice. So this is a work session for to get council direction on a proposal to consider. Excuse me?
Can't hear you very well.
Interesting.
You're real soft, maybe.
He's only coming out of the speakers on the dais.
Can you test it against Scott, please?
Hello?
It actually got worse. Is the volume?
I can hear you, Scott. This is Jennifer, but I think they're having some speaker problems in the council chambers.
That's what I understand.
Jennifer,
Do
good. Yeah, Jennifer's coming through loud and clear.
you want me to log out and log back in?
There
There we go.
There you are.
Oh, okay. That's better?
Yes.
Okay, still can't get my video up, but that's okay. So I don't want to spend a whole lot of time, but I just want to kind of briefly introduce this topic because we have a great presentation for you from our consultant. But the proposal tonight is to get council feedback on consideration of increasing the or changing the methodology to the parks system development charges that could result in an increase in the amount that we charge. Coupled with a discussion on the level of service, the park's level of service. So if you recall, back in 2022, we adopted an updated parks master plan with a whole new set of capital improvements, parkland amenities, things of that nature that came with a dollar figure. And so typically after we complete master plans, whether they be parks, transportation, water, sewer, we typically look at the SDC rate to see if the current rate will be adequate to fund the level of improvements contemplated in the master plans over a period of 20 years. And so this is what we're doing with the parks SDCs at this time. So we're looking for some feedback on that, and you'll get a presentation on what the implications of that are and where our numbers will be relative to other communities. And then the kind of the parallel or related discussion is whether or not to raise our level of service. And level of service is a methodology to address whether your community has enough park space for its residents. Currently, we are at about a 2 acre per thousand people ratio. And the Parks Master Plan, through public feedback and hearing from stakeholders, thought that we should consider increasing it to 5 acres per thousand to be more commensurate with communities our size and character and the desires of the community. So we took this to the Parks Board last month and got some feedback from them. They had a lot of good questions. Ultimately, their recommendation was to support the increase in the parks SDCs and also the increase in the level of service to 5 acres per thousand. So before I turn it over to Steve Donovan, Paul, did you have anything that you wanted to add to that? before we tee it up?
No, I think we can turn it over to Steve.
Okay, Steve Donovan from Donovan Associates. Take it away.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me fine?
You're great.
Okay. Got a presentation. I think it's in your packets. Carrie, are you going to show it on your screen and then I can talk to it, or do you want me to show it and take control from my screen?
Go ahead, Steve, share your screen.
Gotcha. Okay. Everybody see my PowerPoint here?
No, we see a letter, an email,
Oh, well, let's just see here.
the other thing. I think you need to click a different tab.
I've got multiple monitors open too, so let's see here.
There you go.
It's probably one of those tabs at the top of your laptop.
Oh, good grief. I am in trouble here. I can't seem to get anything to go. Let's see here.
Minimize your Zoom screen, and then you can see your other apps, and then you can find your guy.
We can pull it up. We'll stop your share and you'll just have to tell us when to rotate.
Okay, yeah, let's do that. Because I'm kind of in a hole here. There, great. I will stop sharing my screen in its entirety. Okay, let's try this one more time. Ugh.
Yay.
There you go. I can talk to that. Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. Sorry for the glitch. Carrie, if you're running this, can you just move to the next screen, please? Next slide. Great. What we're going to talk about is the history and background of your parks SDCs, a quick thumbnail of what's going on. The next point is the policy issues concerning SDCs. For you folks, this is really more for your audience. You folks are very, very up on SDCs. And Gary, I think you could give a master class on SDCs. You're that educated in them. We'll talk about the Parks Master Plan, Capital Improvement Plan. And then we'll talk about the nuts and bolts of the numbers and the forecast of the single family rate, and then neighboring communities. Go ahead, Carrie, next slide. So your current Parks SDC methodology was adopted in 2011 and updated in 2016 when you did your last Parks Master Plan update. The estimated population at that time was 2,315, and the total capital improvement plan was just a shake over $2 million. Now let's fast forward to today, and your new Parks Master Plan, I know you're all familiar with it. It was adopted in 2023. The estimated population out of 2023 was 3,778. So that's a 63% increase from 2016 and a compounded rate of about 7% per year. And for you statistics geeks in the crowd, we're following what's called the rule of 7 here. And if you grow at a compounded rate of 7% per year, you'll double your population in 10 years. That is shockingly amazing. You've got a tiger by the tail. No surprise there, huh? The total master plan 20-year CIP for the 2023 is $14.4 million. So quite a change from your prior master plan. And as Scott pointed out, the driver in this whole master plan and the driver that created that capital improvement plan is a recommended level of service of 5 acres of parkland per 1,000 population. Think about this as the standard unit as a measure, the measuring stick, the yardstick that park planners use. And it is absolutely critical to the SDC methodology. And the statute does allow for you to calculate SDCs based on level of service. It's an approved method, and there's nothing wrong with it at all. unfortunately, based on a park level of service of 5 acres per thousand, you don't have enough parks right now. So what you are classified as park deficient. And so with respect to the system development charges, it's made up of two components, a reimbursement fee and an improvement fee. The reimbursement fee, we'll talk about a little more, but that's for new connection or new homes, new customers to buy into built capacity. And you don't have any capacity in your built system remaining. So we're not recommending any reimbursement fee. So your SDC will be completely based on planned future costs of capacity increasing projects. Go ahead, Carrie. So this is the slide that is really for your audience more than for you folks. SDCs, who pays them? Well, new development does. Some people didn't realize that. They thought existing ratepayers paid them, and they don't. Charged at the time of permit issuance. And as I pointed out, it consists of a couple of components: a reimbursement fee for existing built capacity, an improvement fee for planned future capacity, and a compliance fee. Under the statute, the city has a number of hoops it has to jump through every year to be compliant. They have to report the accounting of the SDCs. They have to report the spending, where they spent and what they spent it on. And then they have to report this to interested parties. Use of SDCs. I know you folks are aware of this, but they are clearly restricted revenues. And they can't be spent on operations and maintenance. They must be spent on capacity increasing capital improvements. And then the annual reporting requirements, as I just talked about. And then finally, the policy issues, which you are all intimately aware of. SDCs have an impact on how and when development occurs. And you as policymakers must strike a balance between growth paying for growth and the ability to attract growth and living wage jobs. If you set your SDCs so high that you can't attract any development, well, that may be contrary to your goals. Conversely, do you want to have growth being subsidized by your existing ratepayers and taxpayers? So that's the balance you need to strike. Go ahead, Carrie. So here is a very small spreadsheet with very tiny fonts of what the master plan, capital improvement plan is. And it consists of about 15 projects, roughly, about 41 acres of land, and about $14.4 million. And these projects range from a number of types and uses of parks, from active recreation to trails to green space. Go ahead, Carrie. So, as I talked about the reimbursement fee, there is no capacity. Your current level of service based on the numbers in the facilities plan is 1.86 acres per thousand now. Your requirement is 5, so you're deficient. Now, based on the current population, that 3,778 population, if you multiply that by 5, you in theory should have about 19 acres of parkland to serve your existing patrons, and you don't have it. You've got 7 acres. So you're deficient, and it has to be made up from this capital improvement plan before we can start applying any costs to growth. So for the improvement fee, as I just pointed out, 18, you're supposed to have by 2020, by 2042, about 35 acres of parkland based on the future population. Remember that yardstick of 5 acres per thousand. So if we're supposed to have 19 roughly acres to serve existing, that means we're going to have about 16 acres to serve growth. That split comes out to about 45% growth and 55% existing customers or existing patrons. Go ahead, Carrie. So what this boils down to, based on the calculations that we've made, is we're proposing to raise the Parks SDC from a current level per single family home of $1,193, we're proposing that you would raise it to $3,676 for a single-family home, or a raise of $2,483. And then per dwelling unit, that would be $1,910 for a duplex. Thank you, Carrie. And then as for each dwelling unit thereafter, it would grow at that rate of per dwelling unit. Go ahead, Carrie. So here is a chart of your neighboring communities in Deschutes County. You are right now at 1,193. Lapine does not have a Parks SDC at this time. I know they're thinking about it. We did the transportation SDCs over there, and it's an issue that they're very interested in. We're proposing to go up to 3,676. Even at that increase, you would still be fairly modest relative to Prineville, Redmond, and Bed. So that kind of shows you where, just a quick thumbnail of what's going on in your neighborhood. Go ahead, Carrie. What I'd like to do is just hop down out of this now, and we can go talk about any questions you've got. Paul and Scott and I are here to handle your hot grounders if you've got any. The good news is Gary was at our Parks Board meeting, and so he can give you some ideas if we're fibbing to you in terms of anything that happened at the Parks Board.
All right, thank you, Steve. I'm gonna go to Jennifer first, just because she's remote there. Jennifer, you have any questions at this time?
Yeah, I was curious about how the open space and parklands that are in developments and managed by those developments or HOAs plays into the numbers here. Because we certainly have a lot of open spaces and parks that are, you know, in the Hayden Homes developments and other areas. So just curious how they kind of play into all the numbers that we're looking at, and you know, and futuring are those things that we kind of want to keep promoting, that these places have their own open spaces, or would it be better if the city had a goal to, you know, eventually take over all these open spaces so they're under one roof? So yeah, that's my big question.
Well, I can jump in. This is Steve, and I'll get back to you. Your master plan purposely excluded those acreages from the calculations and from the levels of service. And my experience has been those privately owned and maintained have usually pretty much restricted access to only allowing their constituents to enjoy those assets. And there are also deed restrictions on the facilities that they're in private hands. It's private property, and we have no control or sway over those properties, or for either the operations, maintenance, or use of them. Is that a fair statement, Scott?
To a certain degree. So, you know, there was a lot of discussion during the Parks Master Plan about those private parks, and I was just checking the numbers before the meeting here, and I think they all add up to about 10.5 acres.
Yeah, that's about right.
There's kind of a mix. Some of them, you know, do have clear public access easements that, you know, as a condition of approval of the master plan that those parks be accessible to the public. So some of them do, not all of them. What we do kind of hear back from the public is that there's a perception that amongst most citizens that those parks are only for the use of the residents in those subdivisions, so they don't go frequent them. And then there was a discussion about whether those parks actually had the appropriate amenities for that the community desired in our Parks Master Plan. Some may, some don't. You know, some are, you know, exercise equipment or a swing set or something like that, picnic tables. And the Parks Master Plan, there was obviously some discussion about that, but also dog parks, pickleball courts, you know, gardens, those kinds of amenities that those private parks don't typically provide. So there was talk about in the future continuing to require those, that open space through master plans. I think it's like 15% of a master plan be dedicated as open space, and that we would put in our code basically that would require that they have public access easements, so in the future. But ultimately, I think like Steve said, we decided that we weren't going to include the private parks in our level of service calculation.
And I'd interject based on my personal experience in Parks and Recreation. Oftentimes, these amenities within the developments, while they might be required to allow public access, oftentimes they're built into the developments in such a way that that access is not obvious, or nor is it necessarily easy. Or it may just be a walking path through the middle of the development, which is a good thing, don't get me wrong. But I'm always going to be an advocate of parks that are open and available to all of our citizens and not tied to what particular house you live in or what particular street you live on.
All right. Other questions?
Looking at the balancing act of affordable housing and amenities in our community, and we're growing so fast and all that kind of issue, makes me ponder what would it look like if we didn't make such a big jump all at once. Like we're going from our current, which is less than 2 acres per thousand, is that at to 5? What if we went to 3.5? What if we went to 4? Would it allow a more gradual work towards what we're doing? Or is it, better to bite the bullet and get it all done at once, because we already know the big projects we need to do and we need to prepare for them? I noticed that the difference between what the SDCs can pay for and they can't pay for is somewhat dependent upon the fact that we are already deficient. And so if we didn't, that percentage would change if we weren't going to 5. How would that impact that?
Well, I think, and Steve probably can talk about the technicalities of it, but what you would be doing is continuing to build yourself into a hole for both current and future residents.
If you think that it is important that we match this magical 5 acres when we are surrounded by acres and acres of public parkland.
Sure, and I mean, in my mind too, is that we're projecting out what growth is going to look like for the city of Sisters beyond just today, right? So thinking about where new parkland will go is after 2 years, this 2-year effort of expanding our UGB and looking at that and annexation policies and things, we're thinking about our future residents and our current residents on where, that parkland is going to go, what kind of demands will be on that parkland, and what kind of revenue we're able to collect because of growth to pay into those new parks. So if we don't increase our level of service, that's just going to put more of a demand on our existing parks and possibly shortchange our future residents to have parkland neighborhood parks in the new neighborhoods too. We just won't be able to afford to improve, the dedicated parkland to make any kind of amenities for those new residents.
This was debated extensively during the parks master plan process with the committees and everything else. And 5 is not necessarily it's a goal, and 5 frankly is the lowest level of service recommended by the National Parks and Recreation Association for city and community parks. Many have numbers that are significantly higher than that. I think the 5 was an attempt to bring it up to that level of standard, and I agree. It hurts us a little bit with the SDC methodology aspect of it, but I think if we don't set the goal and stick to the goal and work with what the different groups of committees wanted us to do, I think it's a slippery slope. And I agree with you that we continue to dig a hole, and the next time we're going to be looking at having to have an even bigger number, and who knows where we'll be at that time. And I would also argue that the SDC increase of roughly $2,000 is significant, but with what houses are going for in our community, it's a very small part of the cost of that home. And when we start talking about affordable housing and things, I think we have tools in our toolbox to attempt to mitigate some of those negative aspects if we're looking with affordable housing or low income housing to try to bring that in. But those are the very folks we're trying to build these parks for. Quite honestly, they may not have the ability to get to the national forest. They may not, they may have children who need to have a place nearby to play. And so, I'm, would I like the number to be better? Yeah. Do I think that we should phase it in or cut it down? No, I really don't. I think it's a mistake. But that's just me. That's one.
So my question that I've talked with Jordan about, but I'm going to ask the question just because in case someone in the public has had the same question. So with the private parks, the restricted access, those that aren't restricted, perhaps we could consider not counting them as part of the total population against the number of parks. So, Steve, do you think that's a possibility, or what is your consideration of that?
I think you should follow your master plan. You spent a lot of time and money on that master plan. And now it seems like you're trying to find ways to rearrange the furniture, for lack of a better term. And I'm kind of with Gary, and for that matter, your master plan. Stick with the plan and implement the plan and get after it. That's my judgment.
Thank you.
In respect to the affordability concern, something that we have in this methodology that we didn't have before is a multifamily per dwelling unit reduced rate.
Yeah, I did see that.
So as it is today, it's the SDC per housing unit.
Oh, really?
Doesn't matter if
So
it's
that's
single
good.
family or multifamily.
Yep.
That's good
Okay.
to know. I didn't realize that. Thank you.
All right. And is there anything else? Yeah, I am one of those people that really likes to rely on our boards to do a lot of this work for us. And, yeah, so I think the way we're going is the way to go. That's just my, go ahead, Steve, you're gonna move on from there? Is there more to present?
No, that's it. That's my 2 cents tonight. And like I said, Gary was at the Parks Board meeting. I think you might want to ask maybe some of the really good conversation that was at the Parks Board is something for you folks to consider. There was concern about affordability, clearly, for this SDC, and would this impede or diminish the ability of folks to develop their lands? And we all kind of came away with, Gary, help me out here. Really not. I mean, it seems like your plan is well thought out and has an implementation strategy to it. And your Parks Board seemed to be foursquare behind it. And I think that's something to be lauded.
I think that's a pretty accurate reflection of the discussion. It was, they went around over all the very things we're talking about, which is good. That's what we want our advisory committees to do. And I think that the more we had the discussion, the more the group tended to see and think that, yes, this is where we need to go and what we need to do, that we're already in a hole and let's not continue to make the hole bigger. We've got some big equipment across the street we can dig with if we need to, but
Yeah.
I prefer not to.
Yeah, and the other thing is this UGB process that we're going through is tough enough, and we want to know how much of that's going to be parks. We need to kind of know. And if we undershoot it, 20 years from now, people are going to be going, what were they thinking back 20 years ago?
Out of town.
Right, well, yeah, so I want to make sure that we're getting the number that we need to know. And hopefully we can get most of that when we go through this UGB amendment process.
I'm not against it. I just
No, no,
wanted
no,
to
no.
hear
I know you're not.
No,
the
no.
logic.
Is there anything else, Jennifer, that you might wanted to add or?
No, I'm good.
Okay,
So,
all right.
and just talk about the next steps here really quick.
Sure.
So we've presented water and wastewater as well. And so to the affordability question, this is 3 of our SDCs that are in front of you.
through a work session now on presenting the adjustments and the updates. There's a noticing period, there's a public hearing that we'll schedule for this spring, and with the idea that the new rates will go into effect July 1. There's a lot of development in town happening right now, and I'm sure there might be some more permits coming in before then. And keep in mind with the affordability question too, that with the UGB and the fact that there's not a lot of available land in Sisters, right now and for the foreseeable future, there is going to be kind of a lag before, we'll see some of these rates really bear fruit. So the sooner the better to get these implemented so we can take advantage of the development that's occurring. So they're paying for the growth for these projects that are necessary to accommodate that growth, the water, the sewer, and our park system. So that's coming up. You've seen letters from COBA, and we'll make sure we'll have those public hearings scheduled and noticed properly and accordingly, and then plan to have those adopted before the fiscal year starts.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Steve.
Thanks,
You
Steve.
bet. Good to see you guys. See you next time.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Paul.
Bet.
All right, we're gonna adjourn this meeting and start our city council meeting on time. Wait and hear that, so, thank you. All right, I'd like to call to order the February 28th city council meeting. This is our regular meeting. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right, roll call. Rebecca, do you want to do that, or do you want me to do it?
Mayor Preden,
I'm here.
Council President Blum,
Here.
Councilor Ross,
Present.
Councilor Letts,
Here.
Councilor Cobb.
Here.
All right, everybody is here. Next up is the approval of the agenda.
I would move approval of the agenda. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any dissent? No? Okay, that's good. Visitor communication.
Yes, our first visitor communication is Kathy Russell.
Just as a reminder, visitor communication is about 3 minutes. That's okay.
That's good.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good, thank you.
Good to see you again.
I know, it's been a couple of weeks. Okay, I'm Kathy Russell, 1006 West Collier Glacier Drive. And my topic is still McKinney Butte. And so I hope that you have taken the time to carefully look at the McKinney project. I think it is well thought out in the school area. The West End community will appreciate the additional crossings at Brooks Camp, but especially the new crossing at Trinity and Arrowleaf. So, and I went to the advisory board and thanked them for those additions. But something more needs to be done at the east end by the roundabout. I invite you to do a site visit before the project is finalized. Go on a weekday afternoon between 3 and 3:40. There is a lag time between 3:15 and 3:20. That's when the parents have already made it up to the schools. At 3, most of the traffic is westbound, and at 3:20, it's heaviest eastbound. Walk the area and cross McKinney several times. Go along the hotel and cross at Wheeler, just west of Dollar Tree. Think about cars accelerating out of the curve as you cross. Really watch the traffic patterns. Count the number of cars that are using the Dairy Queen driveway as a side street and whether they continue straight onto Arrowleaf or make a left or right-hand turn. Look at the traffic going into Bimart and walk down the driveway. While you are walking the area, please keep the following in mind. Next fall, all that elementary school traffic City Hall has been dealing with will now be using this area. We are adding 1,500 plus people to this end of town. Brooks Camp Village is a 55 plus community. However, 45% are between the ages of 70 and 80, and 30% are 80 plus. You have elderly people using this area daily. I'm one of them. There are at least 3 people in our area that are mobility assisted, and school-aged children, parents riding bikes with their children or pushing strollers use this area daily. So you need to keep in mind as you look at the cars and how they're driving, all the different uses that happen on a daily basis for that. I believe that the crossing just west of Dollar Tree needs to be a raised crosswalk. The speed zone should be 20 miles per hour, and there needs to be a pedestrian crossing sign eastbound on McKinney between the first crossing and the intersection of Brooks Camp and McKinney. We need to keep this area safe for all users. Thanks.
Thank you. Kathy, you're getting good at this, you know. I just wanted you to say. No, I know.
Next is Therese Kohler.
Hi, Therese.
Hello. Hello, Mayor Breeden and all city councilors. I am delighted to hear that city goals for fiscal year 2024-25 include a new goal to quote, study options for preserving more significant trees and encouraging the planting of fire-resistant trees on public and private property. I am on the Urban Forestry Board and encourage the council to use our board to work on this goal with you. We want to support positive steps to encourage tree preservation, healthy tree care, smart planting of a variety of trees, and general town awareness of the treasures that we hold in Sisters in the form of our magnificent trees on both public and private property. Low-hanging fruit in this regard is to bring into focus the heritage trees we live with in Sisters. There is existing language in Sisters Code specifying how a list of heritage trees could be formally established. There is specification for diameter and height and approximate age for ponderosa pines, and trees of other varieties may be considered on a case-by-case basis. They don't all have to be ponderosas, and they may not all be very tall, but they could carry history and possibly a story, for example, of an early sister settler who planted a still-living apple tree in decades past. There is also an inventory of city-owned trees, which one can sort by diameter and height to get candidates to consider. Or you can just walk around our small town, look up and down at the many large and special trees, take a measurement of the diameter at breast height, and start a list. Thus far, no trees and sisters have been formally put forth to City Council for consideration as heritage tree candidates. This can be done by either the Urban Forestry Board or directly by any citizen. It can be a public or privately owned tree. We at the Urban Forestry Board aim to have a short list of candidates to submit for your consideration in the near future. And we hope to also encourage all those living in Sisters to add their recommendations to you or us as time marches forward. Collectively, we are all the temporary stewards of the tree in our town. And naming and appreciating heritage trees is one way to give the grandest of these trees a chance for recognition and give our citizens and visitors the opportunity to appreciate their beauty and many values. They will be a living treasure we hand to generations to come. Last but not least, could you please consider adding video to the audio recordings that are made of the monthly Urban Forestry Board meetings? It makes it a whole lot easier for folks to revisit what happened at earlier meetings. Just listening to an audio recording is tough slogging. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. All right, who's next?
Yep, we have Peter Hoover.
Peter Hoover. I recognize that name.
Infamous.
Oh. How you doing, Peter?
I'm doing well. Good evening, Mayor Breeden and members of the council. Peter Hoover, Sisters Habitat for Humanity, 382 East Hood Avenue here in Sisters. Just thought I'd stop by and give you an update on some of the activities that we have going on at Sisters Habitat. I'm very proud to say that in the next 60 to 70 days, we'll be transferring ownership on 9 homes. It will all be affordable homes. These will be permanently affordable homes as they will be done under our land trust arrangement. So the investments that have been made in the homes by donations and by grants, it's a mighty long period of return, and that's a good thing. I'm pleased to report that that's perpetuity. Some other good news to share with you out of the Woodlands development. As you may know, we have a commitment from the developers for 10 lots. I just signed yesterday for 2 additional lots that have been released to us. And so we are now looking at a total of 6 homes that will be developed there in that development in the near fall. 2 homes we hope to complete by fall. 2 are close to permit submission. And then the other 2 for the lots that we own, they will be developed when that phase is developed by Woodlands. It's important to note that these homes, all 10 homes that will be built in Woodlands, are 60% or less AMI. And so that helps significantly in that need area for our residents. Also have to mention, we're deeply appreciative to Woodlands for the cooperation and partnership that we have received from them, as well as from CS Construction. They have been outstanding partners to work with. The other item that we have going on is what we are calling the Commons Project. We have 2 parcels that we presently own. We have 1 under contract, and we're in negotiation on 3 other parcels as part of that development. We have submitted applications for 3.8 million for funding for those projects. We'll be committing about 350,000 of our own funds to the projects as well. Our grant decisions are anticipated by June or July at the very latest. Funding typically comes about 3 or 4 months after that. The vision is that we will be building 19 homes in total in the Commons project, and those will be 80% or less AMI. And we will also be separate from those grants, but we will be incorporating some workforce housing into that those development areas as well. And I'm also proud to say that that's in addition to all of that is in addition to the 6 homes that we presently have in construction on the west side of town in our Brooks Camp development. And we anticipate that we will be completing those by by late fall of this year. So just wanted to give you an update. It's what we have going on. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Love it, love it, love it.
Last is Michael.
Hello, Michael.
Yeah, I've been very sick. I do scan the paper when I'm here in Sisters, which is still my place, primary, and I scan the paper, and there was a letter to the editor worth reading. Might just make him feel good to say it off of what said the week before. They're thinking of putting in a trailer park, and he thinks you should do it for the worker people, you know, the people that otherwise can't live here. And I agree with that. When leaving here in December, the mayor said, "Have a Merry Christmas." Beside it being ethically and conscience blind to what I'm experienced, to what you have heard, when I was around 20 years old, my conscience started making my consciousness aware. Being married during Christmas time for many reasons is backwards, misapplied, unethical, and also diabolical. I can somewhat understand why it was said, since it is a commonly practiced ignorance. What does disgust me truly is lack of any directed action for what is the obvious twisted moral authoritarian domination, raping and exploitation, and damning of my life, done with their artificial conscience in rule, and not letting me see a county psychiatrist to control and destroy me. Recently, I told a few high schoolers in a park in Bend who came up to me about all of this. One said, "That's sick." Another said they know that many people who work in psychology were, quote, screwed up people. When I continued telling them about this council and the People's Sisters and elsewhere who do nothing, they looked at each other, and now the statement was, that is sick. And in this case, stepping out against injustice and actually see justice happen does not require you to torchingly aflame yourself like an Air Force soldier in uniform, Aaron Bushnell. Made very clear by his friend, it was not suicide. He was, quote, standing up for justice. Myself, a high school dropout, GED was easy. Then slowly taking some courses in community college while also working, I did 1 hour audit of a philosophy class, which turns out to be on how to make a point of view or your own point of view. I became viscerally appalled. The instructor was teaching on how to do good dovetailing design with some papers read, using accepted facts and theories and Western myths, using conjecture talently to paint an attractive picture. An older man on his last year of life in Terrebonne, I helped 14 years ago, had a quote on his workshop's wall, which he said was his very best. To paraphrase, in this world, the worst creative project is using truths and facts woven into the unknown and fallacy. It's the road into the bottom pit, unquote. Unfortunately, it's common, including in politics, business, psychology, and religion, particularly when from those without a real conscience, without a real conscience, period. This older man had left religion years ago to be a better person. Your local city pastor gave me the same visceral reaction as 40 plus years ago when scanning your local paper. I will never have coffee with him, and they can domineer their property. But when you assuredly, wantingly set something up, then disappear like a cat, or you might say a snake, when it starts, requires a finishing conversation with him. I don't computer. Who's going to set it up? Must happen. Samuel Clemens said, paraphrased a little perhaps, if Jesus returned, the last people he would associate with are Christians, unquote. He was stating the already obvious to some. The returning part was just part of making a statement figuratively. Last page. I only went to see the pastor because of the loneliness meeting, which was at the city community room, not at a church, to get assistance from those who's supposed to assist, who live in homes, etc., so I could assist those, particularly one you would not be able to assist for very, very obvious reasons that you, the Christians and the seculars, could make much, much, much worse. Do you care about her? Could you? And you would have to assist me first. If this was put into a book or a good movie, you might get very emotional, cry several times, and get very angry and wish you could do something. Then when the movie ended, go to bed, get up in the morning, and be the same person as the day before. Problem is, this is not a movie. Tell your local sheriffs to find me. Tell them it's an emergency. It is. I cannot show you the movie to prove it.
Thank you, Michael. All right. That's it? Okay. All right, next up is the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Fantastic. On to council business. Our first item is resolution 2024-04. Council goals. Are you gonna lead us off?
I will, Mayor. Thank you. I don't know if it'll be helpful if we pull up the goal document or not. I think you may all have it in front of you. But just to recap, the council held an open house on January 22nd in this room, and we collected input, had great conversations, had poster boards for people to write notes and provide some suggestions. At the same time, we had a community survey that was open for that month of January, and I think we had a lot of great thoughts and ideas, comments, questions, and so thank you to the public for being so active and involved in this process. We hope to get a message out, recapping some of those comments and answering some of those questions, and we could do that in our newsletter and on our website. And then on February 6th, we discussed the current projects and initiatives and the existing status on goals, shared the document on the major projects and initiatives, and had staff there, the department leadership team to present updates. And then the council had a great discussion and deliberations on updating their goals and setting new goals for the next fiscal year. The brief staff report kind of highlighted some of the new goals that were identified. It was a pretty collaborative process. So I think we did a lot of wordsmithing in real time as we updated the goals. But based on your conversation, we went back and went into the document and added the new goals, made modifications to the existing goals based on the progress on those projects or initiatives. And so I highlighted a few of those in the staff report. I think one of them was already highlighted during public comment about significant trees, which was great, a great comment, working with the Urban Forestry Board. But a couple of the things that we'll be pivoting and focusing on this year is the public arts program, for example. The council identified a couple of multi-use pathway projects that we'll proceed with Elm Street and Camp Polk Road. The McKinney Butte safety improvements, which again was a public comment we heard tonight. Continuing our focus on communications, and the council committed to doing more of the open houses that we did at the goal setting session, which we're excited to kind of schedule and plan for those next ones. The naming policy for city parks and facilities, we have a couple in mind that we have coming up that we need to identify a name for the community. Building and expanding partnerships with local agencies to foster collaboration and long-term priorities for the community. This is another effort that both at the staff level and council level that we can pursue, and already started work on that. A lot of course, housing and livability goals that are continuing, but also kind of evolving as we progress with the UGB and development code updates, and also muni code updates based on the policies that you've been working on with the short-term rentals and dark skies, for example. We have a goal in there about the future of the recycling center and our curbside services, given the work on the Recycling Modernization Act is underway right now. And then there is a goal about the URA, urban renewal area, and exploring the potential for a plan amendment, which will take some work, and we have some work sessions scheduled coming up to start working on financing and projections and the project list with our urban renewal area. So there's a lot to cover, but rather than just reading out all the goals, I thought if you've had a chance to kind of review the new goals, and if there's any additional kind of work that we need to do, if the council wants to discuss any kind of wordsmithing, did we capture it accurately, would be tonight. And if they seemed to a point where it's close to what or is what you envisioned and what you discussed, you can adopt the goals by resolution, and we'll get to work. Next step would be working on the work plan, and we're already starting to work on the budget. So incorporating the goals into the next fiscal year budget is our next step as staff. So turn it back to you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Susan, I know you have some stuff. Let me ask Jennifer. Jennifer, I just want to make sure I don't miss you, so I just kind of want to put you first. Is there anything you wanted to talk about? Wordsmithing? Anything like
No,
that?
everything looks pretty good to me. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Um,
Go ahead, Susan.
so I had several things, but, I talked with, what? I talked with, Jordan and got clarification. I had, 4 items and I talked with Jordan. So there's just one item that I want to bring before the board, and it ties to, what, Therese had talked about. And so, just in a clarification on the last bullet, on the section on environmental sustainability. The last bullet has to do with the significant trees, and I was hoping we could reword it to say, study options for identifying and preserving significant and heritage trees, and then continue with the rest of the way it is said, because although heritage trees are significant, not all significant trees are heritage. So I think it's important clarification.
I don't know what a heritage tree is. What does that mean?
Well, like Therese was saying, there has some history to it. It has some kind of local significance other than just being big.
Creating a heritage tree program would be one of the options we're going to study. Is that correct?
We already have a program of for heritage trees.
We do have a program for heritage.
Yeah, we haven't used it yet.
We haven't used it yet.
And does it have a definition of what a heritage tree is in the
Yes.
code?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's important to know, what that, yeah.
So would you consider the rewording, and then if you do
Study
agree?
options for preserving significant.
Creating, didn't you say?
No, I just said study options for identifying and preserving significant heritage trees. And by that, we're talking about, do we engage with the public and have a group of people doing out together, blah, blah, blah.
Could you read it again as you read it? I heard something different when you read it the second time. So read me right from the beginning, study options.
Study options for identifying and preserving significant and heritage trees.
Okay, and heritage trees, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't hear the and,
Oh.
and I didn't want to lose the work of the other group that was also interested in the significant tree
Yeah.
aspect.
Do you feel that what is said doesn't cover heritage trees?
Yes, because there are significant trees that are not heritage trees.
So heritage trees are a subset of significant trees, and we're already have that worded in there.
It's just the opposite. Significant trees are a subset of heritage trees.
No. If you said not all significant trees are heritage trees, that means heritage trees is a smaller subset of significant trees.
Not, heritage trees are not necessarily, if you
They're
mean-
different.
if significant means large.
Sure.
If you're just saying significant means it's bigger than this size, then there will be heritage trees that are not significant. And there will be lots of significant trees that would not be heritage trees.
So
What I hear is that there's already something in code, correct? Did you say there was something in the city code?
Yes,
There is, yes.
yes,
Okay, so
but we don't have a process
But
for identifying.
I understand, but to me, the goal, study options, is to attempt to create a policy and or something that goes into the city documents about what is a significant tree and those sorts of things.
Well, so there is definitions of heritage trees and the process for that. And
Right.
the options, I think, so there are kind of lumped in. There might be there might be two goals here.
That's what
and
I'm
it's okay
wondering.
that, I think it's okay that they're worded together, because either way, we're going to be studying options, and those options might mean going to the Urban Forestry Board and saying,
hey, the council has this goal, we want to identify more trees to designate as heritage. That process includes engaging with this board to recommend that back to the council. And we can start by leading by example with public trees, for example, which ones meet the definition of heritage. But then you have this other issue of significant trees in the community where there's concerns about private development happening, public improvements and things that are impacting some older, larger trees. And how do we have some kind of policies or programs in place to preserve more of those significant trees? And that is kind of another effort that has to be explored and discussed. And
So this is to get us off the dime. We've had the policy, we just have never pursued.
it's my
it.
understanding we don't have a heritage tree in town, right? Not me.
I'm okay with changing the wording to that.
It's not a big hang up for me, one
Nope,
way or the other.
I don't have any problem with it.
There you go.
Thank you. Hey, Jennifer?
No, that sounds great, because that was an issue for me when I was on the forestry board. Because there's a number of trees in town, like she said, like fruit trees, things that were clearly planted maybe 100 years ago, but they're not big. But they're old and kind of a sign of historical significance. So it would be nice to make sure that they're captured one way or another.
I think that, I think everybody's on board with some kind of heritage tree program of some type and, yeah. So changing the name of this, changing the wording of this goal is not that,
Thank you,
Okay.
council.
Just
Thank
gets
you.
us off the dime a little.
yeah. Is there anything else?
Nothing from me.
I really don't have anything. I mean, yeah, I mean, when I was doing it on the computer, I was like, well, but
This
it's
could
usually,
have been.
it's usually just one, but it's usually just one word or two words. And I'm like, okay, that's,
Yeah.
I'm good with it.
Doesn't change the overall intention of the thing.
Okay. So we could probably, entertain a motion. Sounds like, maybe.
I would move to approve resolution 2024-04, the council goals.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. It's just one vote? Because it's resolution.
Mhm.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Thank you, Jennifer. That was all five of us, so good job. Good job, staff, by the way. I gotta
Yeah,
just say.
yeah.
Holy moly. I thought last year was kind of meaty. This is super chewy and meaty. So, okay. Next up, next up is, a pavement maintenance project. Public Works Director Patagna is coming on up. Hi, Paul.
Good evening. So one of my favorite things to talk about, new asphalt. And great bids. So, which is what we saw. We got 5 bids in and the low bid was to K&L Industries out of the west side of the state, Canby, Oregon. And their bid came in at a little over 268,000. Engineer's estimate was 306 when we put it out to bid, and the budget estimate last spring was 360. So you can see the trend, not only in this project, but other projects that have been bid recently, that public works projects are starting to come a little bit more competitive, a little better bidding climate. There isn't the excuse of, not being able to get product as much, so it works in favor for the community. So the streets that we're looking at overlaying are Arrowleaf Trail out by Ray's, South Redwood and South Cottonwood in Pine Meadow Village, Sparkling Water, and a short section of Coyote Springs, and then South Buckaroo Trail over in Five Pine. So all of them are part of our pavement maintenance plan. We took these recommended streets to the Public Works Advisory Board last year, and they approved them for the fiscal year 23-24. And we'll be doing the same thing for fiscal year 24-25. So with that, just had a little addition, something a little bit different. Staff is asking for a 10% contingency amount added to the contract. And that is to overlay the Arrowleaf McKinney Butte intersection. I drove through there about a week ago and was horrified to see a pothole, something that we don't see in this town. And just once we got out and looked at it and started working on it, we saw just really significant degradation to the pavement from this winter, just a hard winter on it. And sometimes you have sections of road that probably have, you know, a thin layer of asphalt on there that just sometimes blow up on you in the middle of winter. So it's part of Central Oregon. So as part of this project, we're in the neighborhood. We're going to be right there in Arrowleaf, working at night. We can easily capture that intersection and get it put back together and good as new.
Does that change how we state our motion on this?
It actually is part of there.
It is.
Okay, so we're not actually changing the motion as part of, it's within that.
Correct.
It's,
Correct.
yeah. it's
Thank you.
within the motion.
Appreciate the clarification. Does anybody else have any questions? Jennifer?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Good work. I looked at the drawings closely.
I did too.
Um,
I like that stuff.
Yeah, I like pictures. I'm a simple man.
Thank you.
So I like,
You're one of the few that can actually read them.
oh, yeah. All right.
I move to award a public improvement contract with KNL Industries Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $268,560 for the 2024 pavement management project and authorize the city manager to execute the contract and any necessary contract change orders and or amendments within a contract contingency amount of 10% of the contract amount.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any final discussion or comments? I want to say good work, Public Works, so obviously. All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Bye.
All right, that's all of us. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Appreciate you. We're on to other business, and that means Joe.
All right, thank you so much. So speaking of exciting stuff, we have the audit report here for you all tonight. If you remember, we have a new audit team this year. This is Umpqua Valley Financial. A really good experience with them this year. We had a little bit of a kind of a change of pace here tonight. So Steve Toucher, who's the partner in charge of the engagement, had a bit of a family issue that he had to tend to. So we have Savannah Halter online here. Savannah was an integral part of the audit team, and she's very well versed in the audit report that's being presented. So she's going to take the lead on that tonight.
Okay.
And you know, she can answer any questions that you might have, or you can ask me as well.
Okay.
So without further ado, Savannah, can you hear me okay?
I can.
Okay.
All right, we can hear you.
So if you want to, yeah, just share your screen and introduce yourself, and the floor is yours.
Alrighty, well, as Joe said, I have been working with him. Can you guys see my screen? Once you can,
And
then I'll continue. Okay, perfect. So, yes, this is our first year auditing City of Sisters, and to shorten it, it went very, very well. Joe and all of the staff was very responsive to us. We had no issues. Altogether, it was a great relationship building experience for all of us. And with that being said, so this is the audit report. Has City Council had a chance to review?
Yes.
We did, and thank you for blowing up our packet with all those. I've been-
Did it put you to sleep?
scared me. No, it did not put us to sleep. No.
Oh, perfect.
Well done.
So, I will go into the independent auditors report. So this will show our opinions, where our opinions came from, the responsibilities of management, and then the responsibilities of us. So I'm not sure if you got the chance to read through the main portion of the audit. But this is kind of a general, hey, we have to say this about the city. This is the way the city runs, kind of deal. Now, if you go to the end page here,
This is called the Independent Auditor's Report that we have to submit, basically our opinion for the audit. We did not find any material misstatement with the city. Meaning everything looked great. Everything balanced. We had no issues, rarely had any questions for you guys. Field work, our on-site visit went phenomenal. So like I said, staff and Joe were very responsive, had everything for us when we asked it. Me as communications manager was in constant communication with Joe. Every time I asked him for some sort of documentation, he provided it same day. So that helps move things along quite fast. So do you guys have any questions for me?
I don't hear any or see any, so. Jennifer,
Well,
any questions? That's a
No,
no.
nothing from me.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. And like I do like to say, if any of the council or anybody else ever has questions for anything of the auditors, Joe can definitely send my email your guys' way, our phone number, whatever you guys need, we are here for. And I know I have all of your guys' emails. I'm sure you've seen mine come through once this year. But any questions, concerns, anything that you guys are needing to say, hey, stop, can we have a call about this? We have questions. We are more than open to do that for you guys.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Sounds
Great.
good.
Okay.
That was easy.
Yeah, we didn't want to bore you with something that you've already seen or, see an eye glaze that was unnecessary, especially being that you've already read it. So
B++, sounds like.
that's right.
Well, and I want to compliment the firm. I've seen hundreds, literally, well over 100 public audits in my professional career and also in my time in elected office. And it's well done. It's clear, concise, well stated. I didn't have to wade through multiple pages of boilerplate minutia to get to what I wanted to know, and I thank you for that.
Yes, that is great to hear. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I agree. It was actually one of the easiest one in my time. So maybe a change in auditor was necessary. I don't know. Good. All right.
Well, thank you. It's always good to hear that. Thank you guys. And thank you for listening to my little spiel tonight.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Savannah.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
You as
Thanks.
well.
Thanks a lot again. I mean,
Of course.
good auditor, but it takes better staff to.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into those 40 pages.
Thank
but,
your whole department for me.
I will do that.
All right.
And the reports,
Tahiti, just didn't pop up anywhere.
I know, we couldn't find where you took it. So, no,
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
and then the report is being submitted to the Government Finance Officers Association for review. And obviously, like I've said to you before, that will really help our bond rating. When we go to pursue any kind of financing, that we'll have that big comprehensive report that's been reviewed and vetted instead of something that's just more basic and minute. So that will go a long way as well.
Thank you for working so hard for us.
You bet.
Everybody.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank
That's
you.
one of the things after being a counselor for a number of years is you begin to see the cycle of this has to be done and done well in order for the next thing to be done and done well in order to prepare and be able to get the next thing, and so it all channels and it all makes the preparation for what we need to do next easy and, better. So it's.
Well, and I've always, as you know, I've told some of you, been an advocate for every so many years going out and looking at who's out there doing audits and potentially changing auditors. Not that I've been unhappy with who we've had. They've done an excellent job. But whenever you have a fresh set of eyes on your books, it's a very important thing for an agency like ours to do. And sometimes we see things in the reports we might not have seen in another report, or we get something like this, which is actually readable.
Right, yeah, and then they, just in our exit meeting after field work, they brought up some suggestions, things that we could do better to simplify, just some of the accounts and what I do in my job, and then even supplemental budget, kind of procedures and things like that. So there's definitely a lot of value added, to that change in auditors, even though it can be more timely, with the engagement, but, well worth it for sure.
Great.
All right, good job. All right, moving on, staff comments.
Did he have something else?
Oh, did you have more?
No, I'm good.
You want
I
to
can-
stick,
I
do
can-
you have anything
I-
else
I
to
can
add?
stay up
Fine.
here. I just, a couple things, now you've adopted your goals. Thank you. Yeah, we'll integrate those into the budget, which, to Jordan's point, we've been working on diligently here. And, let's see, tomorrow we have the City County Insurance Convention, which I'll be kind of attending virtually, but that's when they'll come out with all of the, not to exceed insurance rates, not only for health insurance, but also for property casualty liability and things of that nature. So that'll be interesting to see, what comes of that. So stay tuned.
All right,
Okay,
any questions?
that's it. Just a couple things for tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Joe.
Mhm.
Nice work on the audit and keeping our finances all straight and, yeah, well done. Paul was probably going to talk about this, March 4th, your groundbreaking ceremony for our new roundabout. So we're excited about that. And then that night is also the open house for the project at the elementary school in the gym. That's from 3:30 to 5:30. So there's a window there for folks to arrive after school and learn more about the project. I think SBRD will be there as well
That'll
to.
be at the new element?
No,
The old one?
yeah, at the site of the new roundabout.
Yeah.
So that's 3:30 to 5:30. I have interviews for the Sisters Camp Sherman Fire Chief on Monday, so I won't be able to make it to the groundbreaking, unfortunately. Hopefully staff will take good pictures of those golden shovels. But that project's that's coming. Right around the corner. So I attended the Sisters Park and Recreation District board meeting yesterday as part of the kind of in spirit of the council goal for more collaboration. I did kind of offer the olive branch to have a joint meeting at some point between the council and the board. And I think we talked about possibly doing that with other elected boards in town. So basically I attended just to give an update on the city project, similar to kind of the goal setting, where we're at with different projects. I had some good questions, and I think they really appreciated just, hearing what's going on and all the things that we're doing. There's a lot. It's kind of hard to keep it concise when there's so much going on. And also gave a similar presentation to the Kiwanis last week too, about all the projects going on. Last week I met with Republic Services, again, a council goal about the recycling center and curbside services, where I asked for some more information and data, which she'll be working on to provide about the usage of the recycling center and costs associated with that, and glass to our curbside services. So that's in the works. They'll be coming to the council, I think, in a few months to provide some updates. They typically ask for a rate increase every year to keep up with costs, and so that would be a part of that meeting after we get a chance to review it and vet it. But that's underway. I can go into a legislative update. I think you guys get the updates from LOC and COCO with their bill tracker. A lot going on right now. It's almost hard to keep up. Some of these hearings are happening long and late. Both the housing bills have advanced now out of committee and have passed to go to the floor, and same with the Measure 110 modifications. Lots of public comment on that one. That went pretty late, but that also advanced. So those are a couple that we've been tracking, and I do appreciate COCO and LOC keeping cities apprised of what's going on there. And then finally, Carrie had sent out some tentative dates for the budget committee meetings. It's new to me, but apparently in the past, budget committee meetings have happened during the day, which I think fits schedules here in town and fits with the city council schedules as well as the budget committee members. We're happy to continue that if that works for your schedule. So we proposed some dates and times
for a budget meeting that would be the majority of the day on the 15th, but also reserve some time on the 16th to come back if we have some additional business or changes for budget adoption. So just let us know if that works. And they're in the middle of May, and that gives us enough time to then bring back for adoption to council after that. And that's it.
So a little history on some of those budget meetings. Back in the day, they took a long, long time. Can you remember what your longest one was? It went a third day, didn't it?
Oh, yeah, we've gone to the third day before.
Yeah.
Sometimes it was just the URA.
Yeah.
But I think that's a testament to the process, how the process has gone lately, and Joe being on the ball. I think there was times, back in the day when it it just wasn't as organized as
There was,
now.
yeah, there was a lot more questions because there wasn't as much information and explanation. And so, yeah, it was difficult to get through things.
So well-tuned ship now.
Well,
I-
I'm not
Right.
gonna, yeah,
I think that,
less icebergs.
yep, compliments to Joe. I mean, I've, again, looked at a lot of budget books. I've sat in some 3 to 4 day long budget committee meetings because the books, you couldn't decipher where the money was going and what the money was doing. And that really generates lots of questions. And frankly, on the parts of some of your budget committee members, a sense that maybe not everything's as kosher, correct as it should be. I think the clearer and the easier the budget is to read, whether it's a budget committee member or a member of the community, is a good reflection on the city, and that's exactly what we have here. And that's one of the reasons these meetings hopefully move along, because you can see where the money is and where it's going and what it's doing. So my compliments to Joe and his staff, and to Carrie and the others, everybody who's listened to us over the years about how to make the process work better the next year. So.
And I want to add to that, when you looked at from 2014 till now, the improvement, the lack of financial exposure and the increase in revenues through that time, that's pretty impressive. Yeah.
All right, any questions of Jordan? No? Okay.
I just want to say thank you for going to SPRD. I've kind of been pushing that a little bit. I've seen the benefit of having the different boards talk and get together in a community. You got to break the ice somewhere, and I think the more we're face to face with our other boards, the more we're likely to try to figure out ways that we can make things work best for the community. Not that we don't want to now, but everybody has their own little silo, and the minute we start pulling the grain out of the silo and mixing it together, we can't tell whose grain it is, and that's my goal.
Yeah, and we got 2 major projects that are in between us, right? And they have a new conceptual plan. I think I shared with the council on that. So it might be timely to actually get together sooner rather than later, given the roundabout construction and the pending move and development of a new park in town.
Lay down the foundation, so to speak.
Laying down the foundation, that's right. All right, I'll kick it over to Carrie. She's at
Just a couple of things. We are out for recruitment for 1 planning commission member and 1 budget committee member. That was a fast 2-week recruitment. Applications are due on March 8th. And then we will do interviews hopefully the next week, and appointment at the meeting on the 27th is the goal. So working through that. So if there's anybody that's interested, they can find the applications online, or they can reach out to Rebecca or myself, and we'll move that process forward. And just as a reminder, the joint meeting with the Board of County Commissioners is on April 10th. And we're looking at agenda items on that right now. So any suggestions, if you want to email to Jordan or myself for that meeting. And just an update on the Civic Leadership Academy. We've had a good number of applicants, which is great. So we will be looking at those applicants, I believe, on Tuesday, the 12th. I think I got that right. And then we'll be choosing that group, and starting on April 15th, we'll be our first meeting.
How about Paul? And then Scott, if you're there, you can be on deck. Public Works update. Sorry for talking about the roundabout. I just can't resist.
Okay. I'm so excited. Love seeing the iron showing up. Yeah, we had a utility relocation meeting today with the contractor and ODOT. very important part of the project, something that you don't see, it's all underground. But things we have to think about before we start digging. Existing utilities, new utilities have to go in, an entire stormwater system. And we have a 12-inch pressure sewer line going right through there. So that's going to keep me up at night, as it should. But other than that, they are going to be ripping and tearing next week. They're going to come in full bore, and asphalt's going to be gone Monday afternoon.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Leave the curbs though. No.
Curb's going to be gone. I mean, sidewalks are going to be gone. You saw the bulldozer out there that is going to be doing the work. So they know that they're in a very small window of construction, and we're still not done with winter. That we're going to have to dance around with them. But they're a great company, local Redmond company. Some brothers that started it with their father, and they did the Tumalo roundabout and the Bend Redmond Highway.
Nice.
So it's what they do. They're very efficient at it, and ODOT was thrilled that they're going to come out the sisters. So we're lucky. The other project you may not know about is ODOT's got a project on Highway 242, resurfacing project all the way from Hood Avenue to D. Wright Observatory. Overlaying the entire roadway, updating curb ramps, signage, rebuilding some shoulders. And that work is actually starting the week after next. So we're going to have Knife River on that side of town and Markham and Sons on this side of town. And the other only it's construction season. Yep. And then we'll have some overlay work in the middle of that. The only other thing I have is we met with our rate consultants, our water and sewer rate consultants today. We're just refining their final plan, and they're going to bring that to you on the last meeting in March. So they needed the SDC data and the changes that we're contemplating and what that meant with SDC revenue projections, which affect how much cash can get paid and go towards these capital improvement projects that we have, and then what we're ultimately going to have to debt serve and finance. So they needed that piece of information to be able to tie up their work. And yeah, we're getting close. So, and yes, rates are going up, both water and sewer. So,
Shocking.
not really. Nope. Still competitive
Yeah.
in Central Oregon for sure. Yeah. Any other questions?
Anybody? Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you, Paul. And now Development Services, Scott.
Alrighty, greetings. So we, the RFP for the consultant for the UGB amendment closed, and we got one proposal. And so we had an interview with that consultant this week and got a good overview of what their approach is to the project. And that firm is MIG, group that's worked with us a lot. So we know what we're getting, and excited to work with them again. And we'll be coming back to council the 13th, I believe, for hopefully to award the contract, approve the contract with them for the project. The project is really heavy on community engagement. That's something that we asked them to emphasize, and they've got a lot of great ideas on how to engage the public on this process. It's kind of interesting, on the kind of the process, how it works. There's, you kind of start off the kickoff, but then it kind of goes into a quiet period a little bit when we're finalizing the land need and doing the analysis of the study area. And so it's really not till kind of end of the summer, September, kind of early fall, that the engagement really starts to happen with the public at large, when you have something for them to actually react to. So it's kind of like we're getting this going, but we won't have anything for you for a while. But we will be creating a steering committee, which will be made up of variety of folks to help guide that process. So that's going on. Excited about getting that going. Planning Commission is going to be working on the application to amend the tourist commercial zone district. That's an applicant initiated text amendment to broaden the uses in the tourist commercial zone. So we'll work session with that Planning Commission. They'll work on it as a public hearing before it gets to council. Matt's working on drafting some code language for the short-term rentals based on direction that council provided last time, and we'll bring that back on March 14th at another work session. Hopefully that'll help out. Seeing some of this stuff in actual code language will help push the conversation forward. Got some inquiries about our partition for the Trinity Place, the affordable housing project. Northwest Housing is involved in, so sounds like they're getting ready to make a submittal on that first. The first step is partitioning the property so that they can carve off a piece that that they'll be using for the housing. Get that separated and transferred over to NHA for that project to get going on. And then, as Carrie mentioned, recruitment for a planning commissioner. If you know anybody that might be interested, please forward this, share this opportunity with them. We're really, hoping to get a diverse council, geographically, age-wise, interests, as much as we can. So if you know anybody, we lost a good one in Chris Converse, and so we're looking to find a good replacement. So that, go ahead.
Is this an in-city position or?
It could be either, I believe. Is that correct, Carrie?
Correct. Okay, thank you.
So a lot of other stuff's going on, but I won't bore you with all the details right now, but I'll certainly answer any questions you have.
All right, anybody have any questions? All right, sounds good. Thanks, Scott.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay. That's it. We ran out of staff. Yep. Okay, well, it looks like it's up to us. Jennifer, do you want to go first? You're on the line.
Yeah, I'm still here. I have nothing.
All right, how you feeling?
Pretty good.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
Appreciate
getting
it.
better.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
All right. Go ahead.
So Jordan and I met with the Regional Solutions, I have to cough, sorry. Representative, what is his actual title?
I think he's Central Oregon Director.
Yeah, he represents Central Oregon for, at the Regional Solutions level, and he has been sending Regional Solutions updates. And they're really interesting. So the mayor now gets them, and so does Jordan. It was a long time. As you know, I kind of emailed back and forth, but he didn't get on board. Xavier did not get on board until 7 months ago. And since then, he's been moving really well. So the thing I wanted to share with council is the idea of having a city council appoint a person to be on the regional solutions is not the way it's going to work anymore. And so eventually there'll be like some kind of selection process, and then there's a review, but it's not from us. That we're not. It's kind of a top-down thing. So that'll be made clear once they have that finalized. So I'm not really representing Sisters, and he's kind of representing Central Oregon, and his contact going up to the governor gives us a really good contact if we, want to put, like, if we're having trouble not getting funding, like there's a holdup or something like that. Jordan can talk to him and see if he can push some levers. So that's good.
Right. Well, and you as a counselor can talk to him too. I mean, you can go, you don't have to go through him. You can do it too.
I know.
Yeah.
I know, but Jordan knows more than I do, and he can speak better than I can about those kinds of things, as can Paul. So anyway, I'm not backing away until they've actually said, I'll stay involved, and I'm going to start making sure that you're on the email list
Yeah,
Vice President
And
Blum.
as we talk about things, you guys need to say, well, maybe that's something we should contact, you know, to see what that role really is and
Mhm.
how effective it is.
Yeah, yeah. So, and then the other thing I wanted to bring up is for the future with our goals, because we've got, like you mentioned, Mayor, there's a lot. And I did ask our city manager, Jordan, if, you know, if the staff and everybody feels like they can handle it all. And he affirmed that they, you know, think they can. So, but I think it would be really wise for us to prioritize things, because if it ever comes to a point where we're having a kind of a resource contention, it would really give the staff guidance on, you know, okay, this is the priority and we can kind of, you know, put this other one aside, you know, because they know up front. So that's my suggestion, that at some point in the future, we prioritize our goals.
Okay.
Speaking of our meeting with the county, I'd like to know what their involvement's going to be in the China Hat Road repaving project. Is that going to be a county project, or is that going to be a Forest Service project? Because they're talking about repaving it and that the houseless are going to have to be removed.
And Paul, you might know, I was under the assumption just for the news that it was a Forest Service project because it's a logging road coming out of there. Although it's in the county, I believe it's a Forest Service road, but I can try to find out more on that.
Okay. Yeah, they're talking about it like it's the China Hat Road area that everybody's always talking about. Okay, just fun fact, got a
I like it.
email from a citizen who said, who I've known for years and years, and he said, we don't know what or have a specific name to call citizens of Sisters. And, you know, we're not Bendites. What are we? And so he was intrigued by that. So he looked up a bunch of the names that communities that end in ER might be called, and suggested, you know, his favorites. And I just kind of put it in a category of, these are kind of citizen involvement kind of things that we might do. We're kind of looking at naming our parks, a naming process, picking significant and heritage trees. That's something we can get a citizens involved. Art in our roundabouts and whatever. So there's several citizen outreach kinds of things I think that bubble up, and, you know, maybe that's something on, you know, tongue in cheek a little bit of what do we want to call ourselves? Might be kind of a fun thing.
Sister Farians.
What were some of his suggestions?
Yeah, it was absolutely, there was a Sistrian, a Sisterite, Sister Shirian, Sistonian, Sistrians, Sister Farian is on there.
That's my favorite.
What, so I
2 votes for sister.
pitched this to staff and the answer was immediate, for the outlaws.
The outlaws.
that's
Oh, what
cute.
do you call- yeah, I
Yeah,
don't know. I
That's
don't know.
true.
How about sisterines?
You know, that's like Listerine. No,
It sounds like something you might find out in the field that holds water.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, just, you know, just kind of a fun thing. I don't know, when you talk about, we just don't do it in one word when we talk about sisters. Also, I am now going on in March to the first region-wide housing council pilot. So we have a Deschutes County board, and now members of that board are going to be part of a region-wide. And the point of that, of course, is that a lot of the funding coming down is dedicated region-wide. So we want to, you know, meet our partners in the other regions and put our stamp so that money can keep churning and hopefully go to the right people in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
So that is moving forward on that. Yeah, yeah, exactly. So that carries on. I'll let you know if there's anything exciting happening there.
Okay. Clearly, I wasn't here to have anything, but I want to make a comment that I'm very pleased with the process for identifying someone in the building on Main Street. I think that a good decision was made by those of you that looked at it. And I think it's going to be a big asset, particularly to, not only to the community, but also to that particular area and some of the things that we're trying to push and grow. So I know there were many, many good ones and probably some disappointed people that we went in that direction, but I think it was the right direction to go in.
Yeah, Counselor Cobb and I were both on that committee, and
Good job.
that was, it just shows how amazing our community is. We had 7 applications and all of them were at least good. And most of them were excellent, and it was really hard to make that decision.
And it got down to 2 very exceptional.
You're right, so, and yeah, that was a big deal. Okay, just me? All right, I'm gonna make it easy. I'm gonna only bring up one thing. We're a member of, or I'm a member of OMA, Oregon Mayor's Association. We have an annual conference this year in Klamath Falls in July. I was assigned a place on the planning committee this year, so I'm helping out with that. And we're having, about 6 or 7 breakout sessions. One of them's about water, one of them's about housing. And basically this conference is a way that mayors can get together and kind of talk a little more mayor-specific stuff. Obviously, since I'm an appointed mayor, I don't think it's as strong a thing as it is for an elected mayor, which can be a little different, but I do like to throw my own spin on things. And
You're an elected mayor.
well, I'm elected to here, but I'm appointed by you guys, so I'm still,
Oh.
a lot of these
Don't
mayors.
tell them and push them around.
No,
They
no,
won't now.
a lot of these mayors are elected and not a voting member of the
Yeah.
city council. So
Yeah.
they're the true kind of top position for that. But that doesn't mean it's not important, because I learn things from other mayors that I can't learn anywhere else. So that's the nice thing about it. But the topics we're talking about, water, housing, and urban growth boundary expansion, I was the one that suggested the urban growth boundary expansion, so I'm leading that breakout session this summer. So I'll be looking for some help, just getting some materials together and just trying to get it'll be an hour and a half, I think, maybe just an hour. And how to do that. And there's really 3 points to look at it. One's the full UGB amendment process, which we're going through. There's the new abbreviated one or expedited one. And then there's actually a 3rd one coming out of the governor's office, which I have heard through LOC that it will probably get through as well. So there might be 3 different ways to do it by this summer. And so it'll be kind of interesting to have those discussions with fellow mayors. But where I was going earlier was, when I first went to OMA, I was the new mayor, and I went to all the newbie meetings and try and figure out where I could fit in and learn things. And now this is my 4th year. So now I'm going to the newbie meetings and
Call that grizzled
teaching,
veteran.
right, and teaching the new mayors how to do things, which is kind of fun. I do like to mentor. And the other thing that we do is, that you guys know about, is we have our OMA silent auction, which I usually look for donations for, such as quilt things, and you never know. And we raise money for scholarships to get some of the small town mayors that have no budget, and get them to the conference so they can at least learn some things too. And there's 241 cities in Oregon, and most of them are smaller than us still. We're in the middle of the pack and rising, and there's a lot of little towns out there where the mayors sometimes they're the only person there. There's no staff, there's no nothing, and they're on their own. So I like to help them out.
When's the thing with the auction? When do you need those?
It's in July, so I'm giving people plenty of notice if they want to help out with that. But I just wanted to tell you guys what I was doing, and we're actually having a spring conference, LOC spring conference down there, and it's also in Klamath Falls, and that's in April. And I'll be going to that as well. So, and that's it. Just thanks for everybody for the hard work, and it seems like it's been pretty busy, and it's not going to get any lighter. No. All right.
No, if
Anything
you're
else?
looking for lighter, you're in the wrong job.
Right, right. That's it, we're done.
Didn't snow today.
I know.